Okay.
Okay, so this is the YouTube ID. And I'm going to go up to the front and make sure those guys are on. Okay. We are also live on YouTube.
All right.
And I'm going to go up to the front and make sure those guys are let me get out of that YouTube. Okay. We are also live on YouTube. All right.
Okay, somebody has their cell phone on. Some back.
That's JT.
Let me get out of that YouTube. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, as soon as Donna joins us, we're going to start. So does everyone see the agenda on their screen?
I do, Your Honor. This is QB.
Okay. All right, I'm sharing my screen and where I have the agenda. And she might be having trouble logging in because when Kathy resent the invite, it only sent it as a calendar invite, not as a Zoom meeting. So she has to go to her email and find that email from you on Friday or this morning and access it through the email, not through the calendar.
I also just re-updated the calendar as well.
Yeah,
So,
right. Okay. So she should be okay then. Yeah, I didn't.
I tried calling her to see. I know that she accepted our meeting invite.
All right.
And so I know she just read my message saying we're waiting for her.
Okay, but we can go ahead and get started. We can go through the preliminaries, and then she can join us. But did you get any feedback from her, first of all?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, Your Honor. I know that she read my WhatsApp. Let me just try calling her again.
Yes, if you can try and just see if she's going to join us. If not, then we can go ahead and get started. So let me see now. I didn't participants. Do we have Jackie Terlahi on?
I don't.
Yeah, Jackie's not on too. Okay.
I can call her as well.
Yeah, if you can just ask her if she's going to be joining us.
Okay, they're live up front at YouTube, so we're good.
Okay. And we are recording already, JT?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we're going to call this, I'm going to call this meeting to order. And Kathy, make yourself available. And so I'm going to, and I'm going to ask, will the secretary please call the roll?
Chief Justice Philip Carbolito.
I'm present, and under our interim rules, because of the video conferencing, we have to indicate where we are calling in from, and I'm calling in from my residence at Nimitz Hill, Guam.
Presiding Judge Alberto Lamarena.
Present, I'm calling from my home in Delido.
Attorney Jackie Terlahi.
She's absent.
Attorney Cynthia Ikubi.
I'm present, Your Honors and members, and I am calling in from my law office here in Agana.
Trustee Donna Kanata.
So she has not joined us. And so there are 3 members present, and I will certify that we have a quorum and that we're able to conduct the meeting. The first item is the proof of due notice, and there, as indicated here, we did both the 5-day and the 2-day notice, and so we have satisfied the requirement for the notice. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the, I'd like first to go to the approval of the April 21st meeting on the agenda, in which the 3 of us who are participating in this meeting was present. And so is there a motion to adopt the minutes subject to correction?
So moved to adopt according in subject to correction.
I'll second that motion, Your Honors.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the minutes of April 21st, 20 regular meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, and it's been unanimously adopted. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Sorry, let me of December 17th, and what the minutes of that is reflected on the screen there shows the an executive session in which it indicated that there was a vote in executive session regarding employee performance evaluation, and then the members of the board went back to regular session and announced the vote in executive session. It's been brought to my attention that in light of all that has transpired, there was it was looked into, and I asked John Morrison to prepare a memorandum in reference to the effect of the vote in executive session, and all of you have a copy of his memorandum, and basically the conclusion is that that vote, which I'm sure was not intentional, was in violation of 5 GCA 8114 and is void and of no effect. And so based on the advice of counsel, the action of the board approving or making a decision as to the performance evaluation and voting in executive session is of no force and effect. So the result of that is that the decision regarding the performance evaluation is rescinded, and there is no decision on the performance evaluation. And so the first, before I continue to suggest how we may want to consider, and it's only the PJ that was there. PJ, do you take a different view of Attorney Morrison's memorandum?
Well, it's the first time I've seen it, Mr. Chairman, CJ.
Okay.
So I haven't had a time to look at it. I think I
All
just
right.
received it today from Kathy, so I haven't had a chance to look at it.
So would you like
so I don't have any position for or against at this point.
Okay, so the next question is, would you like us to defer this discussion until the next meeting, or do you want to just take no position on the matter? It's your prerogative. I'll
Why
follow
don't
up.
we, since you know there are two members missing, I'd like to give them the opportunity also to look into the matter. So may I move, Mr. Chairman, Mr. CJ, that we defer to the next meeting? Any actions?
Okay, any objection to that request? I have no objection, and so.
I have no objections to that, Your Honor, and I would concur with the presiding judge that not only we have two members that are not present today, but one of the two members may have been privy and had participated in that session. So I think it would seem prudent that we just continue this so that the other opportunity is given to them to provide some comments. So I'll second that motion.
All right, and so there being no objection, the matter is tabled until the next Board of Trustees meeting. All right, so with that, the next item is the quarterly report, and I will turn this over to our Executive Director, Mr. Hattori.
All right. Thank you, Chief Justice. I know that each of you have the board packet. So as you can see, our numbers, this was for the first quarter, are consistent with prior years. I think in the second quarter is where we started to see a reduced number of cases. And so I didn't really want to spend too much time dwelling on these stats. You guys, if you have questions about it, I'll be free to answer any questions. Since this pandemic started, our office has been appearing at all magistrate hearings, and we've been filing many bail motions. And so we've actually been successful in helping alleviate the conditions and the crowding at the Department of Corrections. Right now, we're trying to get the office ready for the next phase, which would be presumably Zoom court hearings. We've sought really funding from the CARES Act to the executive branch. We didn't really get any money from them. We also applied for through the BJA JAG grant. There was about 2.9 million set aside. I don't think we got anything from there either. So we're pretty much going to be relying on FEMA reimbursement. And so I know that we're going to have to track our expenses for that. In the meantime, we've been using existing operational funds to secure protective equipment for our staff and, if necessary, our clients. We're also procuring video cameras, so every attorney will be able to have attend Zoom court hearings from their offices. And the issue we're having, of course, is with our clients, many of whom don't have internet or access to Zoom. So we're gonna try to figure out what we can do for them. But we are, working with the court on that. I haven't really heard from Alicia Limtiaco, but she's heard from us, so we've been sending her our input.
Yeah, Alicia has been very busy with this implementation committee, and in reference to trying to that will lead us to update our administrative order that will that the PJ is very much involved in reference to what happens when we reopen the judicial center. But the public defender and the AG is going to be very much part of all this. But at this time, just the focus is on this quarterly report. I mean, what's the bottom line? I mean, I went through this. Are we closing cases in a timely way? Are the
Your Honor, I think due to the time standards, we are. I think we're resolving matters in a timely manner. This case just really shows the case is open. I don't know if we have stats on how many moved from pre to post during this time frame.
And so in reference to what about the caseload of the lawyers? Are they manageable in reference to the caseload of? You had a slide here in which you showed the caseload of the various attorneys. What's the bottom line there?
Well, I mean, I think the bottom line is that over the past few years, actually since the time standards have taken effect, we're resolving cases in less than a year. So the active caseload is pretty small by attorney. And so I think right now attorneys generally have no more than 100 prejudgment cases each.
Okay,
There
before
are,
before we continue, I just want to acknowledge for the record that our Board of Trustees member, Donna Muña Canata, has joined us. And so you are recognized and accounted for. So Steve, I guess, I mean, one part of this agenda is you're going to be asking for the Public Defender Service Corporation to be taking on some work for senior citizens. And so I was expecting that you would try and lay a foundation, and that this is something that is manageable based on, what the quarterly report is. And so
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So we have that information in that presentation, but to summarize, last year, the average caseload per attorney was about 83. And so when the moratorium was first imposed, it was about 211 per attorney. So the caseloads, but of course, we've been doing a lot more over the years, right? We still have 10 courtrooms to appear before we're doing more appeals. So I mean, while the caseload is, it's really less than half what it was in 2003. It's allowed us to do more things like file motions to suppress, and obviously we were doing more jury trials, so we've become more litigious, which I think that's a good thing. But we were going to present those stats during the presentation for the legal assistance services part of the
all right,
meeting.
I'll let you decide how you wish to present it. Are there any questions from any of the board members regarding the quarterly report that has been presented?
Your Honor, this is QB. Thank you. Thank you, Steve, for this. As a practitioner, I think what might be helpful for all of us, and I think for the PJ and CJ, and of course, Donna, I saw both the stats for the first and second quarter. And just in looking at it without having background history from the prior years, it appeared that attorneys were anywhere between 17 to 35 cases that they're handling. I think it would be helpful in response to the CJ's question about the bottom line is, we have the courts have specialty courts. And I think maybe as moving forward, it'd be helpful to put in that when you indicate these cases pre-adjudication and post, it could probably be helpful to just indicate that, here's the specialty court, these are post, because I do know that they really come in after they've either pled guilty or there's been a trial to come in and just check in. So it seems like there's a lot, but in fact, a lot of the attorneys just go in just to monitor the cases. And so I think if there's a way that can be structured in your reporting that of the 35 cases, this individual, there's only like X amount that are active and the others are all just monitoring because it's either specialty court, either adult court or juvenile court. I'm also aware that there is veterans court and there's mental health court. So maybe perhaps to explain why some attorneys are taking, for example, I noticed Will Jones has 17 cases versus some others are at, Ali Nussbaum is at 34. I think it'd be helpful for the board members to know that in the cases that they do take, it should be some kind of footnote that Will Jones does a lot of PINS petitions, and those are long-term cases that can be it takes a lot of time. So I think for us just to understand, the direction of where public defenders going, maybe perhaps to indicate all that in there so that we know that the attorneys are either only working on X amount pre-active cases versus the other cases because they're in a specialty court, whether it's DUI, whether it's adult criminal court, whether it's juvenile, it just gives us a better flavor of how we can understand this and how they're actually, effectively utilizing their time, that there may be more resources that the public defender can utilize. But those are my comments because I've practiced before a number of those different specialty courts and I still practice in the juvenile realm. So I can see where some attorneys may only be taking less because the type of cases they're taking are quite extensive and they can take very long in juvenile cases, whereas in DUI cases, and correct me if I'm wrong, PJ, a lot of those are in and out. Either you go to trial or you're pleading, and then you're moving forward to ensure that the person's complying with the conditions on their plea arrangement. And then once it's satisfied, it's dismissed. So I think that for us, it would be helpful, at least for me, to see that. But those are my comments.
Oh, no, that's great. And, as we've been developing our case management system, that's one of the flaws. We have a pretty accurate portrayal of how many cases are prejudgment, but we're still trying to make sure the post and close cases get identified more accurately. And so once we finish that process, then we'll be able to present the items, because unlike most jurisdictions, right, when a case enters, when there's a judgment, the public defender is usually excused from representing them anymore. But we help a lot of our clients most of the time more after judgment than before judgment, and especially in all the juvenile matters. And so that's part of why his caseload looks like that, because Referee Ingalls has court every day, and those kind of cases require special attention and special expertise. I mean, I can't even go into Referee Ingalls' courtroom because I really wouldn't know what to do. And so because we know that it requires special attention and expertise, his caseload does appear smaller in numbers, but it's complexity and the amount of work, it's about equal, I would say. But we'll try to present those stats in the future.
Yeah. And Your Honors and Steve, I don't dispute that. That's why I am aware that certain types of courts and specialty courts or juvenile courts, for example, in juvenile, they have the Guam Family Recovery Program. And this really is activated when you have PINS petitions. And I know that, Your Honors, you're aware that those cases can almost take a life of its own. So I do understand and recognize that there are certain attorneys that are dedicated to it, and they establish close relationships with their clients and with the court. So I think for me, I think that would be helpful. I'm also happy to hear that if there's more time for the public defender, I'd like to see that the public defender develop a brief bank, and we'll just sort of tweak their motions to suppress, all these different motions. And I'm hopeful that with PJ and all the rest of the other judges, that a lot of these issues could be addressed at the briefing level, so that for those who actually go to trial, you've already limited the scope of what the issues are, and or it could be resolved at the motion level by the courts. So those are my comments with regards to the stats.
Okay, great. And we do currently have a brief bank, and most private attorney panel members can email one of the public defenders, and we share all of our motions. So that's something that I think most of the private attorney panel members know, but we could reach out to them and remind them. Eventually, it'll be on our website. That would be really ideal for us.
Yes, I think that's great.
And I also wanted to add that during this break, the attorneys have been conducting CLE. We had about 12 hours of CLE on how to defend sexual offenses. And then we had a 2-hour CLE on Zoom and how to use online these tools to, because the court's going to Zoom, right? So we had a 2-hour lecture on that. Okay, I don't have anything else to add.
All right. Any questions?
Stephen, yeah, just maybe a question
PJ.
and a comment,
Yes.
CJ.
Yes. please.
Stephen, as you know, the Chief Justice has appointed implementation committee headed by Judge Sokola, Judge Uriarte, and membered by Magistrate Kwan, Alicia Mchako, and Danielle Rossetti. And one of the goals is to try to reduce human presence in the courthouse. So, and I think we discussed this at one of our hiatus between hearings on telephonic conferences, right? Stephen, remember that? You and Annie Gale, about how we can reduce people coming into the courthouse. And that's one of the goals that the Chief Justice wants to do. And I think that's one of the things we discussed a couple of weeks ago with Annie Gale on how to do that. And I think you recommended at one time that you may reserve a room for Zoom meetings with the defendant. Instead of coming to court, they'll come to the public defender. Is that right? Or
Oh yeah, that was we're gonna do that anyways to meet with our clients. We just don't know if we'll be able to have like 7 separate courtrooms if they're gonna hold hearings at the same time. Right
But
now
you can do it though, right?
yeah, we can do it if
Aside from the logistics.
oh no, we'll be able to do it. I mean, what the plan was, we're gonna try to get our misdemeanor clients to waive appearances, and then we're hoping the courts will just issue scheduling orders, and then we'd only come back to court if there was a violation from a pretrial release or if someone files a motion, and then the AGs and ourselves, of course, will resolve 95% of the cases, and then we'll file a notice of change of plea when we have the plea agreement signed out. Filled out. So I know some judges do just issue scheduling orders after the first trial setting, and that might be one way just to eliminate. Of course, historically those trial settings have been very useful because then the judges get a chance to tell the attorneys like, hey, are you going to wrap this up or what? But I think we can wrap things up with the government. We've been working together fairly well during this break, and as long as they get the plea agreements timely, we should be able to file a notice of change of plea. And we definitely love being able to resolve cases timely because our clients, they don't get any credit for being on pretrial release. So it's to their benefit to resolve their case as expeditiously as possible. So that might be one way of reducing court hearings.
Okay, and we'll try to resolve the hearings between, you're really more than have 8 judges. You probably have 9 because you'll have to deal with Magistrate Kwan and Referee Ingalls as well. So so we'll try to work that out with you with Judge Socola and Judge Iriarte to iron out those logistics to reduce presence in the courthouse.
Yeah, and if the judges had like a schedule, like certain days so that no more than 4 judges are having court hearings each day, I think that would also help.
Is there any way you can reserve a place where you can have like 3 or 4 Zoom hearings with 3 or 4 5 different judges?
Well, right now we're going to be enabled to have 3. So, but we just, we're actually out of office space. I mean, there's always, if this is going to be a long-term solution, we might, we could rent a container home office and put it in the parking lot maybe. But right now, and then we could convert the conference room. If we have to, we can increase the number of available teleconference sites or video conferencing sites. And also some attorneys might be comfortable enough to have the clients in their office with them. Like my office is obviously is big enough to handle that. So I could have them in my office as well. So, we're just we'll work around whatever the court requires.
And I think we'll be in a better position once this implementation committee report is received, which is due today. And then the 3 justices with the presiding judge then will be working on updating our administrative order, and that will set out a schedule in which in-person hearings will be allowed. That means jury trials resuming, grand jury reconvening. That will all be addressed in the next update of the administrative order. And we're hoping that to issue that sometime next week before we reopen the judiciary.
And we've also reached out to the AG's office about the need for grand jury hearings. If we can plead to an information, so we're trying to wrap it up so that to reduce the number of grand jury hearings, because I'm pretty sure those grand jurors will not be that comfortable coming in. So if we can waive grand jury, if we can work out cases timely, then that's one way we'll try to help the court by eliminating some of those jury hearing type hearings.
Yeah, you can keep the PJ informed, and he's really the person in charge, in terms of the grand jury. And so that's good to hear from me personally in terms of, although I'm not involved in that process. That's good to hear. If you're going to try and reduce the number by trying to work out an arrangement.
Yeah, we just need to have the AGs go back to work like our office.
We're live streaming now, Steve. Okay. All right. So are there anything else, PJ?
No, thank you, CJ. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So if there is no further questions for Mr. Hattori, we're going to move to the APD's quarterly report. And I'm going to turn this over to the supervising attorney, Ms. Durking, or is Kathleen? Who is Kathy? Who's going to present? Okay, Annie, you are recognized.
Thank you, Your Honor. Annie Gale here. Mrs. Hattori is actually the one that prepared these stats.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes.
No, it's fine. I mean, she just based it off of our abacus report anyway. So this is the end of the second quarter. It shows how we do have it set up for DUI, family violence, ADC, veteran mental health court, general jurisdiction, felonies, as well as misdemeanor and family appeal and special. So these were the numbers at the end of the second quarter, which ended March 31st. So that's our total. The next slide is for the full year up to, so Graham, the next page, Your Honor. There you go. Okay. That shows, and if you move it, if you can minimize us, there you go. That shows the pre-trial status as well as the grand jury, the grand totals, not grand jury. So again, on the bottom, it shows you, and on the top, shows you the different categories per felony, misdemeanors, there's family violent, family delinquent. So it takes into consideration what Ms. Akubi brought up to Mr. Hattori regarding the specialty courts. If you wanted us to put a note in for the different specialty courts, we can do that just to make it clear why certain cases perhaps take longer than others, or you're on a probationary, or after you pled out, then just the progress hearings, and sometimes it takes a little longer to get through the cases to actually close them. But what we did, it'll be interesting to look at the numbers for the third quarter, because obviously our numbers have dropped because of the pandemic. But one thing that we have noticed in the last couple of years is all our numbers have dropped for both. If you look at the courts reporting, you can see the filings have dropped from the AGs. That doesn't necessarily mean the complexity has dropped, it's just the numbers have dropped. So an interesting number you see there is the bench warrant. Look at how many bench warrant cases we have outstanding. It's a lot, 125. But do you have any questions, anybody? I have Mrs. Hattori here if you have any specific questions, because she's the one that prepared the actual report.
No, I mean, what to me, again, in reference to the caseload of the lawyers, this is something then that there's less of a number, but still you're saying the time spent is not reduced.
Well, no, I didn't mean it like that. I apologize. What I'm saying is that per attorney, we have the different numbers here of the pretrial status up to the end of the second quarter. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the numbers have reduced overall, but that doesn't necessarily mean our work has reduced, because we are getting some complex felony cases. that go to trial and have to be appealed. So sometimes, I guess because of the lower number overall in general, it doesn't necessarily correlate to less work. It just means less different felonies and different misdemeanors. I was just speaking out like in general. We do have some very complex cases, however. Wait, there we go.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Is that anything else do you want to add, Annie?
Hold on.
No, Your Honor.
Out again. Donna got kicked
Okay.
out.
Mr. Chief Justice, I'd like to ask just same question I asked of Stephen. Annie, what are you doing to reduce presence of defendants in the courthouse?
Well, at this point in time, Your Honor, we are trying to accommodate our clients by having, we dedicated our front room where the entrance is, we put a desk and a laptop and with the camera for appointments that our clients can Zoom with us while we're in our office. They're in that room, and that we already have a shield or what have you. The hard thing is going to be, we probably won't be able to accommodate hearings because we have that room dedicated for appointments. So I'm trying to figure out how we're gonna, I don't think we can. We don't have as many clients as a public defender, obviously, but we are now working on just appointments. And so far, because each of our attorneys has an appointment day, one day of the week, and some of us are coming in twice a week to accommodate the appointments, we can only handle how many appointments in a day? It's like one appointment per hour. So you want to, how are we can't accommodate. I thought we might be able to, but we're using that room for appointments, and we're using this room. I don't use this room unless we can. Yeah, we might be able to convert this conference room to handle to handle courtrooms, but there's only one camera. There's a TV in here and the monitor with the camera capable of doing the Zoom. So maybe we'll be able to do one room, but not more than one room to handle it.
Well, I think that room that you're in looks very suitable for if there is a need for a hearing. Yes, that room that you're in should be set up such that it can accommodate other than an in-person hearing in the Judicial Center, as what the PJ is referencing.
Right, we can use this room.
Right. Okay.
We do 6 feet, right? Yeah, we'll mark off the 6 feet, accommodation.
All right. Yeah. I mean, we need to all comply. Okay, I'm going to mute this. I'm going to mute Kathy here for a minute because I'm hearing your conversation here, Kathy. That's okay. And so Annie and Dre, anything else that you want to say to the board?
No, any questions on the stats?
I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions
I don't.
either.
Okay.
None for me, Your Honors, and board member, none.
Did we lose Donna? Yeah, you can, that's another thing. We need to train everyone that when we drop out, that we just are able to call in terms of the Zoom numbers, and they can just participate by phone. They don't need an internet connection if their internet has been disconnected. I'm unmuting you, Kathy, and so I want to know what's the, oops, I can't unmute you. Can you unmute yourself? Can you unmute? I can mute you, but I can't unmute you.
There you go. Sorry.
I've got Donna on the phone, so she'll be on the phone.
Okay, all right, very good. So,
Yeah, it's okay, Donna.
all right. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and proceed, and she can participate via telephone. Okay, so the next item was supposed to be, as you know, the executive director performance evaluation. However, since we're deferring the discussion regarding the validity of the vote on the performance evaluation, and there may be a need to have a reevaluation because there are new board members, and I would like to suggest that we defer this presentation until we resolve what we're going to do with the minutes. Unless are you just reporting in reference from the decision, Steve, that was made at the last performance evaluation? You are muted, Steve. You got to unmute yourself. You're still mute.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, no, I don't have a problem tabling it. It was going to be kind of like 15, 20 minutes long. So
Yeah, but in terms of your performance evaluation, is this a presentation as a result of the comments made in the last performance evaluation?
yes, it is. And I just wanted to update, maybe if we don't go into the whole thing, we are, there were some concerns regarding like electronic monitoring. So we've already implemented a mandatory policy that all confined clients apply for that if they're eligible. And so
All
I
right,
think
why don't we do this? Because I know the PJ will be interested, and we may ask you to repeat some of this at the next item. I'm going to go ahead and pull up your presentation.
well,
Let me see now. I know I'm going to go to the, I'm going to go to, because this is a different document. Do you see this on the screen? Do you see the second document on the screen?
No.
No? Okay,
No.
okay. No, you don't? All right. So JT, I'm going to ask you to pull up the performance evaluation PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
well, I could actually play it
Or
for
Steve, you have it, right?
Steve has it.
Steve, you have it.
Or Steve, okay, if you can do it, then please do that.
Let me see if I could. Let me try to share the screen. Okay, I just have to be. JT just needs to allow me to share.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. I'm stopping sharing, so you can go ahead and share. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I still can't share.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Okay.
Be your co-host.
Oh, okay, great. So it's
Okay, let me try.
so do you,
There
you
you
guys
go,
have
Steve.
that?
Yes.
You see this?
Yes, we have it.
Okay. All right. Okay, got it. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I was just providing some background regarding the back when I was selected all the way back in 2016, and I had presented earlier goals to the Board of Trustees back in 2017. We've done a really good job, I think, doing things like requiring attendance at magistrate hearings. Our trials, before there really was not that much teamwork. So over the past couple of years, we've been requiring people to have co-counsel at trials. I think there was the presiding judge, we have regular co-counsel trials in like criminal sexual conduct cases. And we found that really helped. I know that Ali Nussbaum, she had been a lawyer for many years, and she actually had a felony CSC trial conducted with Carlo Dizon. And that one actually ended up really ended up really well for our clients. And then we've streamlined office processes, procedures, improved stats, data collection, develop performance standards. This number 5, developing performance standards, was pursuant to we applied for a technical assistance grant with the Bureau of Justice, and they've been helping us work on attorney performance standards for it started out as an adult criminal standards, but Will Jones also has done one for the juvenile defense standards. And so we're hoping to roll those out sometime before the end of the year. Number 6, e-filing. So we've all pretty much, we're ready to e-file. Everybody has the necessary programs to do e-signatures. That's the good thing that's come out of this pandemic. We've been forced to e-file, which I think everybody says has been working great. And so we're gonna be training our attorneys and secretaries to apply e-signatures and make sure that PDFs are acceptable to court. And so we're looking forward to e-filing because that's gonna save a lot of work, I think, all around. The employee development, professional development plan, that's still ongoing. We've hired a new HR director, and so she's going to be working on that. The employee right sizing. So, over the years, we've assessed certain needs, like in litigation. We determined that we needed a paralegal, so we asked the legislature, they approved us, and we have a paralegal that helps the attorneys with everything from jury instructions to witness lists and making sure our discoveries in an orderly fashion. We also have hired a PC4, Kathleen Moylan. She's been great. She's already helped us with so many different programs, including an NLADA AmeriCorps grant, which helped us with work on our case management system and helping us get our stats in order. And then she also helped and is really taking care of the BJA strategic plan grant. And so that's helping our office align really with best practices nationwide. And then the third one is we have a social worker position, and we believe that that social worker, once we can eventually fill it, will help the lawyers from everything with all our specialty courts, with the Guam Family Recovery Program. A lot of our clients really need help lining up with services, and we believe the social worker will help do that. Right now, the attorneys and the secretaries are doing that work, so we think there's more than enough work for one social worker. But because of the pandemic, we stopped the process of hiring, and so hopefully when the time's right, we'll be able to get somebody. Increasing appellate work. Right now, we have about 4 or 5 attorneys that basically share the appellate work. I've mentioned to Ms. Gutierrez, to Hannah, the clerk of Supreme Court, that if she wants to appoint us in more cases, we can do that, because basically we would do it for free. I think private attorneys, it costs anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 to do an appeal. And
Who
so
are
we're
Steve, who are the lawyers on the appellate
Right.
list? I know you are, and
myself, Zach Timenglow, Therese Rojas, and Dave Highsmith. And I'm not sure, I think we added John too, but we're not on the panel. They're really only, I think my name's the only one on the panel, and we were wondering if we wanted to add a couple more
yeah, well,
names.
we cannot appoint if you're not on if the specific lawyer is not on the panel. We don't appoint the public defender. We appoint you specifically. So if there is an interest, I would like for each lawyer to fill out the application form and submit that to Hannah, because there's a process to get on the list. Otherwise, even if you indicate an interest, if you're not, we won't. Hannah's not going to appoint from that list.
Okay, and so that's part of it. And then we've also been trying to keep cases that we took to trial. I know Bill Bischoff just received an opinion regarding an appeal that he had done that resulted from a trial he conducted. So we'll get a couple more attorneys to sign up for the attorney panel. But once it gets assigned to our office, then it goes in a rotation. And so, but we'll definitely add a couple more people.
Well, no, it's not going to work that way for us. What you need to do is you need to, when we appoint Steve Hattori, we expect Steve Hattori to handle it. So you have the lawyers who are interested to do appellate work to fill out the form and send that to Hannah, because the list is by name. And although I understand that they work for a public defender, the expectation is that that specific public defender lawyer that's appointed for that case is going to handle that case.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. For clarifying, we'll be sure to do that.
All
And
right.
then the other, and so that was our goals from 2016, 2017. I guess, let me go to slides. And then right now, what we're working on we're still finishing up our Enlata AmeriCorps program, where it was a technical assistance grant. We actually had an AmeriCorps worker that was assigned to our office, but he had to, after the pandemic, he moved back home. So we do have that position that's vacant. We've worked with the BJA on our strategic plan. We don't have the final strategic plan yet because we got sidetracked by actually working on the projects that were identified in the strategic plans, but we are going to finalize that as well. Let's see. And so the goals that, oh, sorry. Can you guys see this slide, the PDSC goals, January 2020?
Yes.
Okay, so number one, cell phone data messaging. That's a grant it's kind of like a grant. We're paying $5,000 for about $25,000 worth of services. And what it is we're going to be able to send text messages to our clients to remind them about appointments, court hearings, and anything else that we want to inform them of. And it's pretty cool. It's a California-based company. We upload the court's calendar to them, and they will send text messages to all our clients. And we've already been running a demo, and it seems to have been working. It works with all cell phone providers. This has been very successful in the mainland in reducing the number of no-shows, which really will save the court in the issuances of summonses and bench warrants. So we're hoping that'll kick off really soon. It was about to, and then the pandemic struck. So I'm not sure. JT, do you know where we're at on that?
I'm still working on the tech side as far as on that, but it should be within about 2 weeks. We'll hitting on it, implementation once we get the court calendar up.
Oh, okay. And then the next one, data-driven management. Right now, our case management system, when our office first adopted it, I don't know if they didn't really have a purpose for it. And so other than to track cases, but what we're seeing is that we can actually use it to give results. Like we're going to modify the system so that we could track like how many felony cases we received were reduced to misdemeanors, or how many misdemeanors were dismissed or whatever. So we're hoping that we'll be able to provide performance measures based on our improved abacus, right? And the finalized strategic plan, right now, we had one from 2015 to 2018. I think that was with the court, or was it 14 to 16? BJA is providing technical assistance, so we developed a new strategic plan. We're finalizing that document. We're going to present that to the board once it's fully finalized for approval. This strategic plan is great because the last one was more like a management type strategic plan. The BJA provided us actual criminal defense attorneys who helped us formulate this particular strategic plan. So it's more specialized for and focused on criminal defense. One of the things that it started was moving us towards attorney performance standards. That's number 4. We're probably 80% complete with the adult criminal. The juvenile, I think they're almost done, if not done. Of course, the pandemic slowed this, but we will hopefully complete that by the end of the year. It's great because we have attorneys from both offices meeting to discuss what are the baseline performance that we are going to provide our clients. It's going to be addressing things like time standards on how quickly we must meet with clients who are confined and other matters like that. And so that's number 4. E-filing capabilities of Superior Court, I've already touched upon that. We have the capability with the purchase of some PDF programs that allows us to provide e-signatures. Number 6, develop holistic defense platform. That's part of our social worker aspect. We want, we've been I've been a public defender for over 20 years, and it gets tiring seeing the same clients come back. And so we're hoping that if we can figure out a way to make them basically whole, they won't have to keep coming back into the system. It's designed really to reduce recidivism, and we're getting input from the BJA on that as well. Develop early intervention program with GPD and DEPCOR. So that's a program we haven't really started yet. That one, we're hoping to catch people after they're arrested and they're given a notice to appear. And if we're able to provide information to GPD or DOC when they release them, to come to our office, obtain our services right away, and we might be able to resolve cases with the AGs before they're ever even charged in court. They're doing something similar in the juvenile realm, and I think for certain types of cases, we might be able to do that in the adult realm as well. But that's something that we're going to have to develop with the AG's office. Legal assistance in civil matters, I think we're pretty much not pursuing anything other than the legal service contract for the seniors. Complete the best practices. So that's NLADA's 10 principles. That's part of our strategic plan as well. And improve trial practices and appeals. Those are ongoing projects. I think right now, every courtroom has a senior attorney that a junior attorney can turn to. And to the greatest extent possible, if there is a first-degree CSC case or if there's a homicide case, that those cases will be handled by 2 attorneys, either 2 senior attorneys or a senior attorney and a junior attorney. Okay, and that's the, so these were the items that came out of the last, the executive session. Comply with directives from the Board of Trustees. We're doing that. Follow PDSC's mandate to represent indigent criminal defendants. We are working on requiring a 48-hour turnaround from the time of appointment to the time they actually speak with an attorney. The pandemic's actually going to really help us with that because, like it or not, we are going to be setting up Zoom capabilities with the prisons. And so once we do that, it's going to be so easy to communicate with them far more regularly. What we've done also is try to create teams within each courtroom, so every attorney has at least 2 to 3 days where they don't have to go to court, and they can spend that time meeting clients and working on motions. Number 3, the electronic monitoring. We're definitely aggressively trying to pursue that. Our investigators who interview our clients for third-party custodians are also required to inform them about electronic monitoring and how to get that process started. And then present all grants, MOUs for the Board of Trustee approval. We don't, other than the proposal that we have today for the legal assistance to seniors, so we don't have anything else pending. And number 5, cease effort to expand civil matters. And so basically this was slideshow that we were going to present if we were going to address the evaluation. And so if it's going to be tabled until the next hearing, that's fine with me. At least we won't have to go through this again. Any questions?
Can you go back into that slide, the last slide that you were speaking to in terms of in terms of terminating the civil cease effort to expand civil matters?
So that was discussed at the last the executive session meeting.
Yeah.
So then, you know,
But,
it's been
okay, so and well, I guess then it would be more relevant for us to discuss it in the next agenda item. Okay, I was not part of that evaluation, so I'm not. I don't have any specific questions in relation to what you've just presented. PJ, did you want to have it? You have any questions in reference to those follow-up items that the board had that at the last evaluation had asked Steve to present, to I guess follow up or try in reference to complying with its concerns? I'm sorry, you're muted, PJ. We can't hear you.
I apologize. Yeah, I'll like refrain comment till the next board meeting when all the members are present.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's
So I don't want to repeat myself again.
all right. Okay. So I don't have, if you can just have that share document up so I don't have to bring mine back up. I said you see that had it, just go to the next item. Did you stop your sharing? Oh. Okay, just go to the next agenda item. Because that's the last part, so I don't have to pull mine back up again.
You want me to do it, Steve, or you got it? The agenda?
Just do it, JT.
Oh, I thought it was just one document. I'm sorry.
It is one document.
So you can just scroll down. That's all you need to do.
No, he's on a slide presentation. Are you doing, I don't know.
All right, I can bring mine back up then. Let me share screen. All right, so we'll just go now to the next item. If everyone can see that on their screen. And this is the Public Health Legal Assistance Services for Senior Program. And I'm going to ask Steve to make a presentation on this in terms of what is it that you propose to do, and how is it that you're going to handle this contract? What's the value of this, and how is this going to help, number one, the corporation, number two, the clientele that we serve, and number three, is this going to raise possible conflicts with handling criminal cases? I'll turn it over to you, Steve.
Your Honor, my apologies. This is Kathy Moylan.
Yes.
May I kindly ask if I could have the capability to share the screen so I may share the slides?
Okay, I have it and go. Yes, you want me to stop sharing? You want to pull it up? Okay.
If I may.
All right, I will stop sharing and you can pull up your screen, your document.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to kindly ask, does everyone see the slide?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Your Honor, and good afternoon, Board of Trustees, Chairman, Chief Justice Philip Carbolito, our Vice Chairman, Presiding Judge Alberto C. Lamorena, our Trustee Member, Attorney Cynthia Acubi, and Trustee Member, Mrs. Donna Kanata. My name is Kathy Moylan, and I'm a Program Coordinator here at Public Defender. We'd like to thank you for this opportunity to present our proposal for the Legal Assistance Services Program also known as the LAS program for purposes of this presentation. We are joined this afternoon by Mr. Arthur San-Augustine, who is the Senior Citizens Administrator for the Division of Senior Citizens from the Department of Public Health and Social Services, and his staff. Today's presentation will provide you a brief overview about the LAS program. We want to address prior board concerns, highlight details of the proposed project plan, and present to you the budget for your consideration. It is our hope that this information will encourage and support your approval for our office to pursue this grant opportunity. The LAS program is administered by the Division of Senior Citizens, also known as DSC. This program is funded through federal grant funds, as well as local government of Guam matching and overmatch funds. The program is one of DSC's Title IIIB supportive services programs, and as noted on this slide, the program provides legal counseling and a representation to persons 60 years of age or older at little or no cost for legal matters such as powers of attorney, wills, deeds of gift, and guardianship cases. The program currently has a wait list. As of February of 2019, the wait list was at 499. The types of legal services requested under the wait list include powers of attorney at 282, wills at 226, deeds of gift at 34, legal advice at 181, and guardianship cases at 7. DSC proposes to subgrant this program to our office beginning June of this year through September 30 of 2020, with up to 3 additional one-year periods based on the availability of funds. The award amount for this fiscal year, 2020, is $192,144. If approved by our Board of Trustees, our office will operate the LAS program as the Guam Elder Justice Center. The Elder Justice Center will provide legal services, training and outreach activities, and perform collaborative activities to address the legal needs of our senior citizens. At this time, the next 2 slides will be covered by our Executive Director.
Steve, you are muted, Steve. You have to unmute yourself and start all over.
Thank you. Thank you. So at this time, I would like to briefly go over the history of our involvement with the Legal Assistance Service Program and the Division of Senior Citizens. So in 2016, PDSC first approached the Seniors Division regarding the Legal Assistance Service contract. At that time, the existing contract had 2 additional renewal periods left and was not open for competition. So in FY 2017-2018, we received authorization to hire PC4 to pursue such grants. Back in the fall of 2018, we entered into a memorandum of understanding with DSC to provide legal services. We were going to partner with Guam Legal Service Corporation. The Attorney General's office at that time advised us that we needed board approval due to the existence of the civil moratorium. Now, the civil moratorium was initially placed on the PDSC back in 2003 due to the tremendous caseload at the time. Exceptions to the moratorium have been carved out by the board. For example, we are the service provider for the STOP grant, which allows us to represent victims in civil restraining and protective orders. We do guardianships, and we also handle release of body cases where to help get people released from the morgue. And also, notwithstanding the moratorium, the legislature has also recently mandated that we provide services to claimants under the World War II Loyalty Recognition Act. In 2019, the Board of Trustees entertained a motion to modify the moratorium to allow us to provide these legal services to the Manamco. That motion failed at that time. The prior board had several concerns involving client eligibility, conflict of interest, and the impact on criminal representation. This new proposal addresses each of these concerns. First, client eligibility. One concern was reconciling client eligibility and PDSC's enabling legislation. There was a concern that we would be representing Monumco who could afford their own attorney, thereby competing with the private sector. PDSC's enabling legislation provides that the corporation shall render legal aid and assistance to those persons in Guam who, under rules established by the corporation, are in need of legal assistance and representation and who are unable to afford an attorney in private practice. The corporation shall not compete with attorneys engaged in the private practice of law in Guam and shall give legal assistance in civil matters only to those who would otherwise not receive such assistance. The seniors program historically has not used income as an eligibility factor. Based on the concerns noted, PDSC proposes to use its income eligibility guidelines for the Elder Justice Center to comply with the mandates of our enabling legislation. DSC supports this change. Therefore, we will not take clients who do not financially qualify. If they do not financially qualify, we will refer them to the Guam Bar Referral Service. And as a side note, PDSC does have one program, the STOP program, that provides protection, restraining orders to victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. There's no income eligibility for that program. Another concern that the prior board had was that representing the Monumco would create conflicts of interest that would require PDSC to withdraw from criminal cases. The initial plan for the seniors program envisioned all of the PDSC 16 attorneys to handle 2 cases a month. Approximately 360 senior clients could potentially result in withdrawals from related criminal matters. The new plan eliminates this risk. PDSC now proposes to establish the civil division with appropriate conflict walls between itself and the criminal division. This is what we have done with APD. Not only will this eliminate the risk of conflicts, creating a civil division will reduce conflicts. The civil division will include the STOP program. This wall will eliminate the potential for conflicts for the criminal division and the STOP program. For example, right now we decline to represent STOP victims because we represent the respondent in a criminal matter. Likewise, on those occasions that a criminal matter arises from a protective order, we are disqualified from representing the accused. The civil division will stop conflicts on both sides. The civil division will not have to turn away victims because the criminal division represents the defendant. The criminal division will not have to withdraw from representing a criminal defendant because the civil division has sought a protective order. This design addresses the concerns to ensure that the STOP program and the seniors program will not adversely affect representation in our criminal cases. As a result, we will conflict from fewer criminal matters as well as fewer protective orders. And in the future, we also anticipate shifting the guardianships to the civil division once the senior division waitlist has been eliminated. That could be a year from now. This will eliminate the risk of conflicts caused by guardianships as well. Across the board, this plan will reduce conflicts in criminal matters, guardianships, protective orders, and elder law matters. Another concern was the effect on criminal representation. The concern was that the criminal attorneys would be overwhelmed by picking up 2 additional civil cases per month. Over the course of the year, it would result in an increase of 36 cases per attorney. Now, back in 2003, when the moratorium was first imposed, the average caseload was 216 cases per attorney. In 2019, the average caseload dropped to 83 cases per attorney. If the civil caseload was added to the criminal division, the caseload would go back up to about 110 cases per attorney. However, assigning 1 attorney to work in the civil division and eventually transferring all existing civil matters, including guardianships, protective orders, restraining orders, the war claims cases, and such, would allow the criminal division to focus on criminal matters. This new plan eliminates prior concerns about representing financially overqualified Monumco. It reduces conflicts from guardianships, protective orders, and elder law matters, and permits the criminal defense attorneys to focus on criminal cases. Thank you for the opportunity to address these concerns. Okay, back to you, Kathy.
Thank you. So the project plan for the Elder Justice Center envisions the creation of Pdrc Civil Division. The Civil Division, as noted earlier, will include the Elder Justice Center together with our STOP program. The center will operate initially at the Division of Senior Citizens in Mingilao until our office can acquire more office space. DSC has indicated that it has ample space to accommodate the needs of the program. The temporary location at DSC will provide greater access to our seniors who already visit DSC for its other programs. The project plan implements the conflicts wall created by the Civil Division, also noted earlier. This wall addresses and eliminates the potential conflicts for our PDSC's criminal division. And as noted earlier by Steve, we've already successfully created a conflict wall with APD and anticipate using the same procedures. The project plan also addresses program eligibility. Seniors who exceed our income guidelines will be referred to the Guam Bar Association. We propose that conflicts will be handled by Guam Legal Services Disability Law Center. Guam Legal Services will be subcontracted by our office to handle conflicts of interest cases and other cases as subject matter experts. Guam Legal can also be subcontracted to develop materials such as forms, pleading, and other program materials. The Elder Justice Center staff will include 2 attorneys who will not be assigned to the criminal division to address the legal issues of our seniors and other program requirements. The grant will fund 1 attorney and 1 special projects coordinator. The special projects coordinator will handle the prioritization of services, conduct case management, coordinate outreach and collaborative activities, and perform grants management duties. PDSC staff will help with legal, secretarial, clerical, fiscal, and grants management duties. The objectives, deliverables, and processes for the Elder Justice Center include the development and implementation of a structured prioritization of services procedure that will address the wait list and new referrals. Upon completing this procedure, the Elder Justice Center will provide legal services to no fewer than 40 seniors per month. The Elder Justice Center will also conduct a minimum of 2 informational outreach activities per quarter. Topics will include services provided by the center. It will address elder abuse and neglect and other legal issues important to our seniors. The Elder Justice Center will collaborate with service providers to include the Guam Bar Association, Guam Legal Services, and Micronesian Legal Services Corporation. The Elder Justice Center will establish and maintain an active advisory council to provide guidance to our office on services and policies affecting the operation of the center. We would now like to give Mr. Arthur San Augustine an opportunity to share his thoughts before we address the budget.
What is Board of Trustees? Can I do a sound check real quick? I can't hear anyone.
Can you?
Okay, this is Chief Justice Carbolito. First of all, I want to welcome you to our meeting. And I see now that you have unmuted yourself and you have started your video. So please go ahead and proceed. I can hear you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, sir. Buenos Board of Trustees, Chief Justice Carbolito, Presiding Judge Lamarena, Board of Trustees, Mrs. Donna Kanata, and Attorney Ukube, Board of Trustees member, Senator Talai, and all members and all those present. First of all, thank you to the Board of Trustees for having DSC, more specifically, the Legal Assistance Services Program for Seniors, on your agenda today. And to your PDSC team for working alongside DSC to continue our pursuit for legal services to be provided by PDSC to Guam seniors. Legal assistance is provided under Title 3B and is a part of the essential core of the Administration on Aging's Legal Assistance and Elder Rights programs. The Legal Services Network can provide important assistance for older persons in accessing long-term care options and other community-based services. Legal services also protect older persons against direct challenges to their independence, choice, and financial security. These legal services are specifically targeted to older individuals with economic or social needs. As we are speaking of seniors in greatest social or economic need, in fiscal year 19, of the 3,359 clients registered with DSC programs, 99% or 3,236 were at or below poverty level. The data clearly documents that for the most part, many of the seniors on our program cannot afford the services of a private attorney and yet have legal requirements and needs. In some instances, accessibility is another variable that limits or restricts seniors from seeking legal advice. Therefore, I do not see the target population proposed to be served by PDSC as competing with private legal firms' attorneys licensed to practice on Guam. DSC supports that the corporation not compete with attorneys engaged in the private practice of law in Guam and shall give legal assistance in civil matters only to those who would otherwise not receive such assistance. Provision of legal services to the high-risk group of seniors will give seniors a peace of mind that they are protected from being taken advantage of becoming homeless, that they have a home until they pass on, that they have considered their health options and have made decisions of their health options such as DNRs, and have put their life in order through legal guidance through POAs, deed of gifts, wills, and guardianship. Further, the program will not manage cases that are income generating in nature. In addition to the direct legal services, we are looking to having law clinics and informational outreach activities conducted at the community level. We want to let seniors, caregivers, and others who are helping seniors know where to seek legal guidance. Through PDSC, DSC envisions working with MPOs and the Guam Bar Association to provide opportunities to provide information that would benefit the target population. Information such as decision-making by others on the seniors' behalf. For the first time in Guam's history, we could all be a part of the opening of Guam's Elder Justice Center, serving as our community focal point for legal services and information for seniors. In time, there could be grant opportunities for the center to seek to further the cost of the center, to keep the pulse on the proposed laws that would affect seniors, to review and analyze existing laws that are counterproductive to seniors, and to propose changes in law to ensure those seniors who cannot afford the services of an attorney are provided legal services, as they too are in need and should be provided legal services. From the perspective of seniors, not having the firm, their lawyer, attorney, change because the firm has changed is a strength of working with PDSC, and it's one that PDSC brings to the service, a continuum of services for Guam seniors. Being consistent is important for seniors who avail of legal services. In addition, the partnership places emphasis on access and affordability, two key variables seniors deal with on a daily basis, which is even more evident in the lives of seniors who are at or below poverty level. It is my hope and vision that today, subject to the Board of Trustees review and assessment of the proposal before you, that we embark on an opportunity to provide elder law to address legal issues affecting senior citizens, our Manainata. And I really want to thank the Board of Trustees for having us on the agenda and for just listening to our proposal for our partnership with PDSC. And going off script, I just really want to say this is really an opportunity for us as a community to stand up, to rise up, and provide legal services in my mind and my assessment. I've been on this job for many years in the best way possible. Our seniors have been subject to having firms change, political administrations come in, law firms are terminated. That has happened twice with a change of administration. But nothing, there is no safety net. There is no catch-all system for the seniors whose legal situation is then left in suspense. I appeal to the Board of Trustees. I hope that we can all work together. I look forward to working with your team. And I firmly believe Chief Justice, Presiding Judge, Chief Justice Carboleto, Presiding Judge Lamarena, and all the Board of Trustees members that this is really a step in the right direction. And it's a step forward for our seniors, that we will provide those seniors who otherwise would never step into the office of a lawyer to be given access to affordable legal services. to protect them from harm and any future givings for the people that take care of them. So I thank you for the time, and I'm here should you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Art. And continuing on with our presentation, in this slide, the fiscal year 2020 grant amount to operate the Elder Justice Center is $192,144. The proposed total budget for fiscal year 2020 from June through September of 2020 is approximately $109,415. Any fiscal year 2020 unexpended amounts can be rolled over to fiscal year 2021. The salaries and benefits noted are for an attorney 4, step 1, and a special projects coordinator. The grant will fund the supplies noted in the slide to include personal protective equipment. The budget also includes equipment to operate the program, which includes laptops, cell phones, in the alternative landlines, office rental equipment, as well as internet services. The budget for contractual services includes a request to fund Guam Legal Services Disability Law Center approximately $16,000 for the remainder of fiscal year 2020. Fiscal year 2021 anticipates funding Guam Legal $50,000. Other contractual services include language assistance services, Zoom Enterprise for video conferencing, case management services, as well as audit fees. In this last slide, we want to acknowledge and join the Division of Senior Citizens in our community in celebrating Senior Citizens Month this May. The theme for 2020 is Make Your Mark. The theme was selected to encourage and celebrate the countless contributions of our senior citizens. Their time, experience, and all their talents have benefited and continue to benefit our families and our island. We really should all be inspired by them to make our own mark to help them. This year's theme certainly highlights the difference we can all make. To this end, we kindly and respectfully request the board to consider and approve this grant opportunity that will allow our office to address the long-awaited legal needs of our seniors and to make our mark to help them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Mr. San Agustin. And I would like to start the discussion. Can you put it, go one slide back, Kathy?
Yes, Your Honor.
And first of all, let me just say that I agreed to that this be placed on the agenda because so we can start the discussion. You know, it was when I was originally Chief Justice, I think it was my first term, that I was the one that pushed for the civil moratorium, because at that time Steve had stated that the priority was, in terms of the board, was to focus on criminal representation. The lawyers were overworked, had an overwhelming caseload. Conflicts were seemed to be very routinely entertained in order to, I think, maybe in a part address the overwhelming caseload. And so those were different circumstances in which the moratorium was imposed. As Steve has mentioned, over the years, that's been eroded to some extent, but from what I can gather, not to the detriment of the primary role of the Public Defender Service Corporation to provide indigent defense. I mean, I don't think there's anyone in this board who will say that our seniors, members of our community, is not deserving of representation and affordable representation. As Mr. San Agustin has pointed out, probably all of them are not able to afford private representation, even if it's just a simple matter as preparing a power of attorney will. And so to the extent that this type of service can be provided, I think everyone on the board, at least those present here, appreciates the merit in providing this representation. It's always been just a matter of resources and priority, and not have the indigent criminal defense be compromised, at least speaking for myself. I see that, and part of the reason why I agreed to have this, I see that we have changed circumstances today. The Public Defender Service Corporation have, for various reasons, have a better capacity to handle non-criminal cases. And we are in a very unprecedented times. And we don't know, and I don't know necessarily if Senator Therese is on the line or just a staff member, but we don't know what the budgets are going to look like for the public defender, the APD, the judiciary. And so I don't think now that is the time to pass up opportunities to obtain more resources for the Public Defender Service Corporation. At the judiciary, we are in a very aggressive mode in seeking federal funds because we see the writing on the wall in reference to the local budget and the revenues that are likely to be projected in the next year to 2 years. And so there are changed circumstances for me personally that makes me amenable to providing this service. It's never been that our senior citizens are not deserving. They are absolutely deserving. It's just who provides that service and what the priorities are. And I'm now informed that the public defender is in a better position to provide this. I would never support having our 16 lawyers handle 2 cases. That is just a recipe for difficulties. However, as I mentioned to Mr. Hattori, dedicating a lawyer to provide this service, 1 or 2, in this case, we start with 1, and setting up an effective ethics wall, conflicts wall, and you know, we can't just speak about it. You got to show the board how we're going to do this. Just in passing, when we need to see a plan in reference to how we're going to undertake this for the longer term. In my mind, maybe the way to go is to have a pilot program, and in the fiscal year 2020, the 3 or 4 months remaining may give us this opportunity to see that, you know, we're capable of doing this without compromising our indigent criminal defense priorities. And so I just want to state that in principle, I now support the providing service, but we need to be assured, I need to be assured that it's not going to compromise the indigent defense representation, and that we're not going to draw upon the general fund budget to support this additional service to provide to our elderly. And so I want to make those general comments, and then you know, we need to go back and look and work on the details, but that's not something that needs to be stretched out for a longer period of time. But I just want to state for the record, and to Mr. St. Augustine, he was very articulate in identifying the need and the plea for help in having some continuity of service, and that the Public Defender Service Corporation presents an opportunity to provide that continuity. And so in principle, I share his concerns. We just need to look at the details and how we go about doing this. And so those are my general comments, and I'll defer to the PJ and anyone else who want to speak in principle before we decide how we're going to proceed.
Okay, thank you, CJ. Art, I'd like to thank you very much. I've known you for a long time, and you've been a very strong and avid defender for the Manamco, and I still congratulate you for that. You know, I always had the position, you know, Steve, from the very beginning, the public defender's purpose was to represent indigent criminal defendants and to make sure that they hopefully had the best representation without any distractions whatsoever, and to reduce the number of conflicts that the public defender had. When I first became chairman of the public defender in 1988, public defender was representing not only criminal defendants, but a lot of non-criminal cases where it ended up that there were so many conflicts the public defender had that people that public defender should have been represented had to go seek representation elsewhere at great public expense. When we reduced that from non-criminal representation, when we eliminated that, then it reduced the number of conflicts for public defender, and basically public defender did a pretty good job in maintaining adequate representation for its indigent criminal defendants. And to this day, they're still doing that. I'm very concerned of opening it up. I know that there were some exceptions made, but they were for a purpose. The first one was protective orders. We did that exception because there were times where Guam Legal Services Corporation had conflicts in representing a person in a protective order case. So therefore we had to make sure that public defender was available for that conflict. On the stop grant, I don't know how that happened, but you know, it was a de minimis participation of public defender at that time. And I think that the grant was basically to maintain a couple of employees to make sure that the family violence program was being followed. On the last one, on burial of a person, burial order for a burial for a person who's indigent. I don't know, but the Office of Public Guardian has been doing that for the last 3 cases that I've had. I've never seen public defender come in representing an heir or the Guam Memorial Hospital asking that a person be buried and given it to a certain entity for custody for the burial. It's usually the Office of Public Guardian, which was represented by Marcy Santos. So she's done the last 3 or 4, at least in front of me. The other concerns I have is, you know, the conflicts. You know, I handle a lot of probate cases and a lot of contested partitions of property and conveyance of property. And many of them are because of undue influence by one heir over one sibling or another, or one heir over another. And my concern is that if public defender does this, we have to make sure that we avoid as many conflicts and as little litigation into the judiciary as possible. Like for instance, wills. You know, sometimes people are very influenced by the person taking care of them. And they may have undue influence upon the elderly. I want to give assurances that the undue influence by the person taking care of that individual, make sure that the other heirs that are involved are informed of the wills or any deed of gifts or any power of attorneys or any guardianships that would be made. So if a will is written, all heirs have to be contacted to make sure that they are aware that a will is being written, so that they have an input, at least, or a say-so, or a knowledge that a will is being made. Usually in many of our probate cases, a will is open and many of the heirs are contesting it because they claim that there was an undue influence by the caregiver or by one of the other heirs. So we've got to avoid those conflicts. On the problem of the guardianship, that's another issue. One of the citations for elderly abuse is guardianships. One person will claim to have taken care of the person, but yet he's been appointed not only for the guardian of the person, but the guardian of the estate. So therefore, that person has access to the funds of the person he's been appointed guardian. And so there's a lot of conflicts that have to be resolved in these matters, which I'm very concerned about. On legal advice, I don't know what kind of legal advice you'll be giving them. Some of the legal advice from the Manamco is, my son got into trouble, or my son is beating up his wife, or my daughter's being beaten up by his husband or boyfriend. What do I do? So what does public defender do about that? Especially if the public defender, other public defender, is representing the son or the victim is the daughter. There's a lot of conflicts that are involved here. So are you going to represent now the Manamco or give her legal advice when the public defender is representing the son, or the victim, or the daughter is the victim, in which the public defender is representing the husband or the boyfriend or whatever? These are a lot of questions that have to be resolved before we even go into this. And that's been my concern, is that there's just too much conflict. I know there's a wall because we have a separate administration between an alternate public defender and public defender. We have a separate executive director, which is Annie Gale, and we have a separate executive director for public defender, which is Steve Hattori. If we're going to have a wall between the public defender criminal and the public defender civil, then we got to create an absolute wall and probably rename the public defender, make it the civil or Manamco representation or whatever, and have a different executive director, and maybe still have this present board members sit in it, but a separate executive director that's only answerable to the board, not to the executive director of the public defender criminal. Because I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of overlap between the criminal side and the civil side in this matter. And this is a small island, and I can guarantee there'll be numerous conflicts that will have to be handled. So that's my gist of that's my opinion so far of this proposal. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, PJ. And I'll ask QB, Attorney QB, if you have any comments.
Yeah, thank you, CJ, PJ, and thank you, Kathy Moylan and Mr. St. Augustine and Stephen for the presentation. First of all, I want to commend Public Defender for their efforts to want to help the Manamco, as well as Mr. St. Augustine. I would agree with you, CJ and PJ, that clearly the Manamco, we need to address their issues and their concerns. I agree with as well with both CJ and PJ that I think we need to see more detailed information of how this is accomplished. I'm not necessarily focused so much on what this contract will do as far as taking away business from the private practitioners, but I am concerned, though, what PJ pointed out from a practical point of view. And so here are my concerns that I have, that I think we may need to look at this in detail and perhaps maybe down the line consider a pilot project. One is, although I think Public Defender has done a great job in reducing, addressing all the filings that are made with criminal cases, my concern is in the future, what if the filings increase? And then what happens then with the budget? The other thing that I have concerns with that PJ really pointed out, and this is coming from me as a solo private practitioner practicing for almost 30 years, in which the bulk of my work is to prepare wills, deeds, do guardianships, and powers of attorney and durable powers of attorney. And I think the first thing on wills I can tell you is part of my concern is if they're drafting it, I've actually, as a practitioner, had to clean up documents from other attorneys that have done it incorrectly. That's wills. Also, I've gone into court because the will was, because it's been introduced, was not done correctly. And now I represent a party here that's fighting this, like PJ pointed out, and it becomes a hot mess. That's one. Deeds, I'm going to tell you, as a practitioner, I am so reluctant for attorneys to do any kind of real estate, because the scope of a practice with real estate, which is about a large percent of my practice, is far more involved. Just bringing in a certificate of title and asking, and the individual asking to prepare a deed is not simply the case anymore. I mean, as a practitioner, what I do is when an individual, whether it's elderly or not, I really go through the gambit and saying, well, we're going to have to do this. We'll contact the title company, ensure that ownership of the property is still within your name. So before we even prepare anything, that's the caveat. And I'm just concerned if whether or not we need to make sure those concerns are addressed, because sometimes, and I've actually litigated it when it's come to me, where the individual didn't own the property anymore and then created a deed after. It creates a cloud on title. And I think that it becomes more litigious. So real property, that's my major concern. And that's because I do a lot of practice in that area. That's the bulk of my practice, is real estate and defending cloud on title issues. Guardianships, the question is going to be, is this just an uncontested guardianship, or is this an adult guardianship where I'm currently involved in it? And it really, the scope of it changes so much that, you know, one of the biggest issues, like PJ pointed out, is the undue influence. And so really it's going to mean that not only just preparing the documents, at least the way the judges are doing it now, you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to talk to the healthcare provider to be assured that this individual is either competent or incompetent. And if there's any objections, you're going to have to go through an evidentiary hearing. A lot of times those things are contested and they take a lot of energy. So, and they could be very costly from a resource point of view. Lastly, on the legal advice, that is my concern, because I've had people come to me and say, I have this and this, only to find out later on, because they just use generalities, I find out that there's a conflict, because now, you know, I've given them some advice that's contrary to a person that I'm representing. You know, so you really, I think that there's some very valid concerns with this. And I just think the way we need to approach it is to kind of look more on the details of this first. Also the ethical situation, you know, I know that the bar and through their ethics prosecutor did a CLE late last year concerning this unbundling of services and the ethical responsibilities as attorneys, whether it's in the private sector or in the public, because, you know, if you don't advise the client properly and it's not clear within your agreement, it now starts creating ethical issues, you know, towards the attorney and the organization. So, you know, those are my concerns. I think we just need to see how we can address these to ensure that the elderly is receiving the proper legal advice or legal representation, and to ensure that these conflicts don't arise, you know, because it could turn out to be more costlier in the long run. I mean, to be able to say, we'll just do this simply, and then later on to find out when I've come into the picture that I've had to undo stuff because I have to go to the court and resolve a cloud on title issue, or to now take over and litigate in an evidentiary matter, which in a guardianship, especially adult guardianships, they're far more complicated than minor guardianships. And I know this for a fact because I've done a number of these, and it could be very long, and it could be very costly for the parties. So I'd like to see just more of the details of how these issues will be resolved, how you guys are gonna undo the conflict issues, and how it's also gonna protect the organization from any ethical issues that may arise, because a particular client may come in and say, I asked you to do this. And although you tell them that's what you'll do, they'll come back and say, well, you promised to do this. And then it becomes an issue between the attorney and the client because of some ethical issue that arises. But those are my comments.
Thank you, Attorney Ekubi. Ms. Donna?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity um, to speak on this behalf. But, you know, Cynthia, Attorney Cynthia, I understand where you're coming from. And, you know, right now, especially now, life is not easy, you know. We don't get to eat a bowl full of cherries on a silver platter. And, you know, it just doesn't come easy. But if we don't start somewhere, we're never going to get anywhere. And we can get 1,000 no's. Everybody's going to tell you why it cannot be done. But why do we have to be the group that says, or why can't we be the group that says, yes, we can get it done? Everybody is going to give you, I mean, you can talk to everybody and they're going to tell you why we can't do it. But based on what public defender has been able to do, we've proven time and time again that our attorneys are thoughtful, they're careful, you know, they have the passion to take care of all the clients that come in. And that's what we're here for. So we need to start somewhere. And why not start with us? It's never going to be easy. But if we don't start, and it's not like we're doing this from scratch. If we're getting grants to even just start it, why can't we start it? I mean, you might say, man, Donna, that's coming from a, you know, from a marketing or sales point of view, but maybe that's what we need for somebody to come from outside the box to make this happen. And it's not for you know, everybody, it's for our Manumco. And time again, it's our Manumco that are forgotten. How long did it take us to get what our Manumcos really deserve? 75 years? Now we can't even provide them this kind of service. They have nowhere to go. And you know how I know that? Because they come to me. And yes, maybe I look like somebody that can help them. But even as discussion, I get it almost on a weekly basis. Where can I go to get this done? And they got nowhere. So, Your Honors, all of you, I do consider what each and every one of you are saying. And I know, Attorney Kuby, what you're saying, of course, we're going to take that all into consideration. But we're going to come up with 1,000 no's on why we cannot do this. But if we start with just one yes, and we start to do it, we can get this done for our Manumco. And maybe it sounds as, maybe you might think this sounds really easy and you know, there's more to it. But if we don't start somewhere, we're not going to get it done. So for me, I really wish we would make the extra effort to get this done for our Manumco. Thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you. So I think the sense is that this needs to be further evaluated. What I'd like to propose is that we keep this on the agenda. We defer any action until some of the issues can be addressed by Steve and Kathy in terms of how do you set up the conflicts wall. You know, you're saying that we did it for APD. Well, you know, there's a detailed agreement with in terms of setting up APD. And so we need to look at, you know, what are the requirements. You're saying that we're going to locate this office initially at the Department of Public Health and Social Services. And so, and we're just going to staff it with, can you go back one slide, Kathy?
Yes, Your Honor.
One more. One more. Just in terms of the staffing, you know, in terms of the special projects coordinator. I mean, an attorney for, first of all, what's the rationale for the attorney for?
Well, the reason we set it at a 4 is because we're hoping to hire a retired attorney. Am I muted? You know, and when you hire a retired attorney, you don't have to pay benefits, and so that's something we were looking at. And this, you know, this we were also gonna send over the stop program because the stop program creates a lot of conflicts. And along with it, they were gonna do the guardianships that also creates conflicts. So this separate firm, which would be like APD, would be run by one of our attorneys who would move over there, and they would take with them all the protective orders and all the guardianships and all the other civil matters we do, and then they would be answerable directly to the board, just in the same way that Ms. Gale is answerable to the board. So we could put that in writing. The structure's already there. It's identical to what we have for alternate public defender. It's been working. They're able to represent co-defendants in cases. They also represent, other, those, any kind of conflict. So I think if we create the ideal typical conflict wall, then it'll actually reduce the number of conflicts we have now. I mean, we withdraw from some family violence cases because of protective orders. That will not happen in the future. If we're able to create this division and separate the civil side, we do get out of some cases because of, we can't represent some protective order victims because we represent the respondent in criminal matters. If we move the stop program over there, we'll be able to help even more victims. So I think we will eliminate a lot of the conflicts that currently exist that arise out of family violence court. And it will, and whatever comes out of the guardianships. I know that there will be complex cases, but the program is not designed to handle litigation. They will prepare a will. The will be filed at court. There won't be any probate matters that this civil division will handle until they get the support from the legislature to fund that in the future. But initially, they'll just prepare the will and have it recorded at court. Same with the deeds. There will be no litigation arising out of any of the matters that civil division will prepare.
So this just creates more work, but I think, there needs to be a write-up in terms of how this is going to be set up and what are the limitations to reduce the conflicts. And is this a special projects coordinator, a secretary type? Because we're not going to share under an ethics wall. We don't share any secretaries with APD and PD because of the confidentiality. So
no, that's correct. The special projects coordinator, I think that's a requirement of the grant. They're going to be like a caseworker, but there's some, part of maximizing our resources here at the office would be possibly shifting over a secretary and maybe someone for the front office to do their process serving and also to help man the office. We also have the STOP program funds one employee. And so that grant will also, that employee will also work over there.
Okay, and so I think we need to address, Steve, some of the concerns that have been raised in reference to how do we set up the conflicts wall, what type of service, and maybe we need to look at the scope of work in reference to the federal program and what is the extent of the delivery of service, and as you say that undertaking the task will not involve litigation. So I hear the concerns of the presiding judge, and I mentioned at the outset, it was under my initial tenure that the moratorium was initiated, and it was over the years. I was not part of that in terms of there was erosion of that. However, I feel there are changed circumstances, and that's why I am open and amenable to exploring this. And because of the clientele that we're seeking to provide service for, and there is a plea in reference to maybe PD is in a better position than the experiences of putting this out to the private sector to handle in different scenarios. But I would like to defer this for a period of 30 days And in my mind, and any board member can let me know if I'm out of line, but I'd like to set this up as that if we are going to entertain it, and it requires 3 votes in terms of the board, it's going to be on a pilot program. And I think a good pilot program is, the remaining part of the fiscal year, and to see if this is something that, maybe even longer, but I think we should initially start like Ms. Donna said, with baby steps, but we need to address some of the concerns in reference to the conflicts wall that's going to be set up. How is that going to be set up? Eventually, what is the plan, and how can this also benefit the current operation of the PDSC? Is there any benefit other than just providing the service to the Manumku and just undertaking another mandate that and I don't want to see that any part of our current resources is tapped at the expense of our indigent defense. But as I mentioned, I'm amenable to looking at this. I don't want to see that any part. I'm sorry? And as I look at my screen, I see our esteemed speaker. I see that Miss Donna Munya here, Kanata, has called in the reinforcement. And so out of courtesy and respect, Madam Speaker, I will recognize you. And I'll, if there are no other comments before we close the discussion, I'd like to extend the floor to our esteemed speaker. Is there any objection to that?
Just one comment, Mr. Chairman.
No.
Yes. Yes,
Chairman.
I'd like to extend the floor to our esteemed speaker. Is there any objection to that?
Just one comment, Mr. Chairman.
No.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I'd like to,
Yeah, we're getting a delayed feed here.
yeah, Steve, can you? Is there any objection to that? Yeah, just a minute. We get to mute that live stream. Okay, go ahead, PJ, please go ahead.
Yeah, CJ, just for if Steve says the attorney is going to be retired, can we remove the benefits for the attorney, the benefits amounts for the attorney position?
The amounts were removed. Yeah.
In my thing, it's still there.
I thought
The benefits amounts is still there. 10,818.9 for fiscal year 2020.
The benefits are there.
And 2021, 32,079.47.
Right.
I thought if it's a retiree, it's basically a contract.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we'll remove that. Your Honor, we were supposed to remove that. We'll remove that because that was the intent,
no problem.
was to hire a retired attorney. So if you don't mind, Speaker, just 1 minute. If I could just say that we did if we were to start this contract in May or June, we were going to have the whole program at Division of Senior Citizens Center. So they will not be here. The whole team that we put together will be at the Division of Senior Citizens. They have a office space carved out for us. They've got the resources for the staff that we're proposing to be up in Mingilao. So we've taken that out of our office. That element is out. We've had an attorney who specializes in probates and wills, who's a retired attorney who we wanted to bring on board. And we've been talking to this attorney for over a year. Hopefully they're still available. We've got several attorneys who we would like to have consider taking on this program with our office. So those are the two concerns that I know that we addressed, and I know that when we talked about having the attorney, it was a retired attorney and there were no benefits. So I didn't review the budget as I've seen it, but I just assumed that we took away the benefits. So, and then I know that the speaker, as the Chief Justice, we're going to put you on. You need to take yourself off of YouTube because she's been streaming on YouTube. So you need to like get off of YouTube so that we don't have the back feed. And then I know that the speaker as Chief Justice, we're going to put you on.
Yeah, I'm going to,
because she's
all
been
right,
streaming on YouTube.
all right, what we need to do is we need to allow the speaker to then send her the invite, and so she can come on without having the back feed by her coming on in terms of how she has access. So Kathy, can you send her the?
She's on Zoom. She is
Okay,
on Zoom. But she also has YouTube. She wants to make sure she doesn't miss anything. So she's on Zoom and she's on YouTube.
Don't worry, Madam Speaker, this is being recorded on live stream. So you'll be able to watch it.
Can you get me out of the live
She
stream?
also has YouTube. She wants to make sure she doesn't miss anything. So she's on Zoom and she's on YouTube.
Don't worry, Madam Speaker, this is being recorded on live stream. So you'll be able to watch it.
Can you get me out of the live
She
stream?
also has YouTube. She wants to make sure.
Okay, half a day.
You need to disconnect on YouTube and then we'll recognize.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Half a day and good afternoon. Chief Justice, Presiding Judge, Director Hattori, Attorney Cynthia Kuby, to the Board of Directors, good afternoon. I apologize deeply as I'm trying to multitask here, and I saw that there was a public defender meeting, and I apologize for being on late, but I understand that you were talking about the elder program that Chief Justice, you and I had a conversation with many months ago on a commitment last year that we were going to facilitate this issue in regard to help our most vulnerable, our sinus, and see how the Public Defender's Office can re-synergize what we've done for many years before you and I want to say in the 90s, put on the moratorium. I want to say that I understand through the little that I've heard in reference to tabling this for the next session, I'd like to know if I can submit a testimony in support of, and also advocate and affirm that Bill 146-35 COR is still on the agenda. I mean, it's still in the legislative introduction. We're still hoping that we get support for it. We have 4 colleagues of mine that have introduced it. Senator Amanda Shelton, who is the legislative secretary, is the main author of the bill that would allow for the Public Defender Service Corporation to receive and administer grants and enter into intergovernmental agreements to provide legal services for underrepresented groups for the purpose of establishing the Elder Law Center. I want to share with this august body that it was my efforts in working closely with my colleagues to have bipartisan support to truly try and answer the call of our signers who completely ask. And the part that I really caught was, I think it was just God sent, that Donna was sharing on when I was streaming, that she said somebody looked like me who advocates that she literally sends to almost on a weekly basis, or anytime someone approaches her, that she turns it over to me, someone asking for assistance, someone asking for help, for us to do just a lot of just the basic facilitation, whether it be power of attorneys, whether it be just getting from point A to point B to help our senior citizens out. I want to share with you, I hope that you can give me the opportunity to speak in support of this measure and this efforts, and working closely with Public Defender. It was my sincere request to work with my colleagues to move this bill and have this bill introduced, and work hard with Public Defender's Office to truly see that we would get out of some kind of, get off of the moratorium, at least partially, to help our signers. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, as an advocate for those World War II survivors and those senior citizens
who truly suffered the atrocities of World War II, and my efforts in working closely with them, it was one of the reasons why I continue to advocate to making sure that literally guidance, some legal support, and just being able to help our signers along the way was a sincere effort to work closely with the main author of Bill 146-35. I am imploring this committee, the Public Defender Service Corporation's Board of Directors, to please revisit this efforts to work, put the protocols in place to give the opportunity for our signers to be given the opportunity for them to get legal representation. Sometimes it's just the littlest things that go the long way. And let me tell you, having had months with working with them as we were advocating for the war claims to be executed locally, there were a lot of cases that I can share with you, and I know that's for another time. Your meeting has been on for a long while, but I'm hoping that you can at least give me the reconsideration again so that I can turn in my testimony of support and implore this August body to look at the efforts of making this Elder Justice Center approved for our Menamco. It is something that Donna will tell you almost on a weekly basis when she gets the calls, when people come in to see her, they forget that she's me. I mean, they think she is me, and she just takes in all the concerns and says, I'll have somebody help you and help facilitate with you. But in all efforts of knowing that there's a place where our elders can go through without having to go through a lot of the bureaucratic red tape. I know that Public Defender's Office is one place where advocacy for our signers could truly be worked on. Again, I must note that in my years of working at Public Defenders and knowing that we have had this service in the past, and only because of trying times during the downturn of our economic crisis, that there was a moratorium that was put in, and we had taken a lot of our civil actions and civil cases that Public Defender had been doing in the past and put it on a moratorium. I not just regret every time I see somebody come up to me and ask me for help. I know that it is in my heart to try and bring home this opportunity for the Public Defender's family to help. Again, knowing that we will not compete against the private industry of attorneys. We will not compete against us for civil fee generating cases. It is just to provide our signers an opportunity to give them that legal support or that legal representation they rightfully need. Sometimes it's just a simple power of attorney. Sometimes it's just to help a loved one get from point A to point B. And I'm going to continue to fight my hardest, Chief Justice, and to the presiding judge. And I think with the passion that I have to give back to our signers, this is one way of advocating for that again and again.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, I thank you for that. And of course, we will always provide you an opportunity to provide input to the board. I think because we are approaching the 3-hour mark and we bring this discussion to a close, we are going to defer this matter until the next board meeting. So Steve and Kathy and Kathy can work in reference to the details to address some of the concerns. And one of the concerns, Steve, is that this center not handle any litigation so as to minimize any conflicts. And so I think the scope of services, and if we were to look at, this federal grant, what is all that is expected, needs to be consistent with the board's concerns that the providing criminal indigent defense is not compromised. And so I think speaking personally for myself, entertaining a pilot program to see if this is a feasible and workable aspect of providing services under the public defender umbrella will not cause difficulties for criminal indigent defense as expressed by the presiding judge. And so Madam Speaker and members of the board, I suggest, and unless there's an objection, that we table this for 30 days, and we will bring it up for action one way or the other at the next board meeting, and so that Steve and staff can go back and work the details and to put it in writing in reference to addressing the concerns. And so that's my suggestion. Any objection by members of the board?
No objections.
No objections, Your Honor, for myself, QB, and I just want to make it clear, Your Honors and Trustee Munya Kanata, I don't object to it, but I just want to make sure mechanisms are in place. And what I've done, and I will do, Your Honors, is I know that the ethics prosecutor, Mr. Tolentino, had sent us stuff a year ago, and I'm going to forward it to both Kathy and Steve concerning the scope of services, because I think that's going to be very important when you meet with the clientele, if this project is approved, to explain to them this is what the goal and what the limitations are under this particular program is, so that they can see it. And for the protection of not just the Manumku, but also to avoid any ethical issues that could arise. And so I'll forward that to them after this meeting for them to review and look at.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Attorney, can you forward it to the other members as well?
I will, PJ, this was a PowerPoint presentation that was presented by our ethics prosecutor. He did a great job on the pro bono ethics seminar. So I'll forward it to the members so that they can see what he did and what his research revealed, and to kind of craft out a scope of representation type of agreement. So it's very clear what public defender, if this project is approved, what their role and responsibilities are. So I'll forward it to everybody.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, so this matter then will be tabled until the next board meeting, and we'll keep it on the agenda. And I don't have the, let me see, what's the remaining part of the agenda here?
Yeah, that's
So,
it. Yeah.
that's all under new business. Maybe the speaker can share with us. Now we'll tap on her. What's the status of our budget hearings?
I will share with you, Mr. Chair, that the chairman of OFB has been very diligent in putting on the hearing. So as soon as we get the opportunity, I will work hard to make sure that the judiciary gets what they have requested for. I do know that in the efforts of the impact, and of course the resources that have been coming in to the island, we have to make sure that we balance what the shortfalls will be and work accordingly. But you guys have always been detailed, and you've always delineated the need, and you've also worked really hard to work those fees. And I made a commitment to you that I would not take away from the hard work that you have done to put in place the fee structures, but more importantly, to give you guys that opportunity to work with what has been provided for you in the past, and the need to just make sure that you're sustainable. That commitment I will give to you, to work hard to advocate for the judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and the public defender and the APD will also be
Yes.
prepared in defending our budget. So with that, thank you very much. There's nothing under executive session. That's all been tabled into the next board meeting. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, move to, okay. I'll
Okay.
second Ms. Galata's motion.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you all for your patience and your diligence in participating in this discussion. So it's been moved, seconded, and there being no objection, motion carries. And this meeting is adjourned. And thank you, Madam Speaker, for joining us and imparting your.
Hermosi.
All right, goodbye.
Adios.
Thank you, Your Honor, board
Thank
members,
you.
staff.